met with a group of women, and we were talking about activities here in Riyadh, and there were 2 women that were visiting from Qasim, and they invited me to come up, and so I wasn't able to that day because I was leaving to go back to the United States, but on my next visit I did go up to Qasim at their invitation.
Mm-hmm. So were you surprised that they were thinking about important topics like breast cancer awareness programs, for example?
Well, I have to admit I was not surprised at the work that they were doing in the community. It was just amazing. They were focused on health and education, but I was surprised, to be honest with you, when they brought up one of their 2 big topics was breast cancer awareness. And for me, I thought it was a topic that was probably not very open to discuss in a society that is as conservative as Qasim. And so I was really heartened by the fact that they were doing this and felt that there was a real connection between Qasim and the United States. And so when we started talking about some of the issues surrounding breast cancer, I found that there were so many similarities between what was going on in Qasim and what goes on in the United States. And I'm a breast cancer survivor myself, and although it really wasn't what I was thinking about or planning when I went up to Qasim, it turned out to be the topic of discussion for that evening.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not sure if you'd like to talk about your personal experience, but I'd like to take this question to Dr. Samia Alamoudi. You are a breast cancer survivor, aren't you? So how did you get to know about it, and how did that entice you to break the silence, as you call it?
Well, actually, I've discovered the mass like every other woman. It was just by chance. One day I felt that there is a lump in my breast. Being a doctor, I've started to examine myself and look for signs. What is it? Is this something benign or something more than that? I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, being a doctor, I've recognized that it's cancer immediately. So it was by chance. At that time, I thought, well, it's time that somebody speak about it. And I know that, you know, as I know that in Saudi Arabia and most of the Arab worlds, we never talk about these things. They are very sensitive issues that even people won't name it by the name. They won't say cancer. They will say just that disease, the bad disease. So I've started to write in the newspaper. I have a regular column in Al-Madina newspaper. I thought it's a kind of responsibility towards women, being a doctor, being a patient now, that I have to tell my story. And this is how it started. I've started to write article in the same column about my story from the beginning. How did I find it? How did everything goes on, the investigation? How did the chemotherapy affected me when I lost my hair? And that was the beginning of the story.
Did you feel you owe it to the community to let them share their experience?
Yes.
Or did you feel rather ashamed, like many women would?
No, not at all. I did not feel that I'm ashamed at all, because I thought, well, first of all, it's a responsibility being a doctor that education is part of our commitment towards women. Second thing, I don't want any other woman to suffer the way I did. I'm a mother. I don't want a mother to children to lose their mother just because they did not recognize the importance of having the exam, the mammogram. So it was rather a commitment, a responsibility. It's something I felt that I have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, Irene, this used to be the way in the West. Like cancer wouldn't be mentioned by name. Women used to call it Big C, for example. And how did the West progress on confronting cancer and talking about it as a topic that even kids at school get to learn about cancer?
Well, I think having seen it over the last several years and how it has sort of evolved, it really goes back to a lot of the efforts of just a few women, and one of those leaders was Nancy Brinker. When her sister died of breast cancer, she got a couple of her friends and started in a living room of a house and just said, we need to do something about this, can you help me? And she began by reaching out to people to talk to them about cancer and what it was and breast cancer, and to begin to raise money for research. And one of her friends, Laura Bush, was there and helped her by stuffing envelopes, licking envelopes, sending them out to people to really make them more aware of breast cancer so that it didn't have such a stigma. Nancy recalls times where after her sister had been diagnosed that people would walk across the street once they saw her coming for fear that they would get it themselves, and they viewed it as a huge shame on any family, and that was just 30 years ago. So since that time, by building awareness in the community and letting people know that it was okay and it was okay to talk about it and that women could survive such a disease, I think over time it's become a lot more accepted, and certainly in the United States and beginning throughout the world, there are people with the courage like D.Samiة who will speak up and say, yes, I've had it and I can survive, and here it's not a shame and it's nothing to be shameful of, and we can go and we can get care here in our own country.
Mm-hmm. Well, D.Samiة, you've started the Breaking the Silence campaign, and I know it's been very effective and very positive indeed. Now, we understand that women all over the world are too shy to go to doctors, especially is going to examine their chest and their breasts and things like that, which is a global thing. You know, women are usually shy and they don't want to visit the doctor for this reason. How do women get an early diagnosis, for example? Is mammography important here, or could they examine themselves like you did?
Well, see, it all goes together, because what are the recommendations? It depends on the age of the lady, but usually we have the self-exam, which the woman will teach women how to examine themselves. And we have the clinical, which is done by the doctors. And we have the mammogram. The mammogram, which is specific X-ray that is for the to detect any breast lump. This one, the mammogram, is the most accurate, and this is the only way available to detect cancer at the early stage. But this is not used for every woman, because like when we say you have to do mammogram, young patient like girls in the 16, 18 years of age, they will come and say we need mammogram. They don't have to do mammogram. It starts from the age of 35, because this is the age group which is at risk, more at risk of having cancer.
And they should do it every 6 months
every
or every year?
year. Usually every year, but it depends as well, because like in Europe and United States, they start at the age of 40. For our areas, we recommend it from age 35, because the pattern of the disease is a bit different here. We have 30% of our patients are younger than 40, which is compared to only 7%, around 7% in the United States, for example. That's why we recommend it earlier. For the examination, which is the self-exam, or this a lady can do it, we teach the young girls even from the age of 20. So this is how it goes for the exam.
Do we have any statistics? You've mentioned certain age groups.
Yes.
Do you have statistics about the prevalence of breast cancer in Saudi Arabia, for
What's
example?
available, I always say the available statistics say that it's around 12 to 14 per 100,000 women. But when I say available, because our registry is kind of a new registry, and it's not 100% accurate, because it does not reflect what is actually going on. You know, Saudi Arabia is a big country, and you know as well as I know that our ladies, women, and the old ladies, they won't go to seek medical advice, and sometimes even in the rural areas and in villages in particular, they might die at home. Nobody will know what happened to them. So they won't report to hospital. So this is why it's not very, very accurate. But the problem is not in the number of cases. The more serious thing is that 70% of our cases, which is 2/3 of our cases, they come in late advanced stages, which means that their chance of survival, their chance of cure is limited. The other thing is that it costs even if you take it cost effectively, it costs the government more than if we have a program for early detection. Because when you treat an advanced case, it will cost you definitely different than if you treat an early case. And this is one serious issue. So 2/3 of our cases, they come in advanced stage. The other problem is that we have young patients. In Europe, in the America, you never see a patient in her 20s who have breast cancer. Rarely you see that one. One day I was watching Dr. Phil. There was a case, a very unusual case of breast cancer for a young lady who's a university student, because they don't see these cases. Here, the I've seen a case who was 17 years old in the university hospital. So we do have a problem. We do have a problem. We know that it's increasing, and we know that we have to have a good fight for this, otherwise we'll end with a low survival in this country.
Yes. Well, Irene, early diagnosis in the United States has paid dividends, hasn't it, in reducing the number of deaths in people with breast cancer, didn't it?
Absolutely. Today, 98% of women will survive if detected at an early stage. So that's phenomenal. It's flipped from where it was 25 years ago. And once again, I would attribute that to the grassroots efforts that have been done across the United States in awareness and prevention that has led to that.
Now, how is it done, and could it be applicable in Saudi Arabia, for example?
Absolutely, and I think that's what we're starting here today, the awareness program. What has happened with this partnership is that the U.S. has joined hands with Saudi Arabia and Susan G. Komen for the Cure and MD Anderson Cancer Center. And Susan G. Komen for the Cure has put together their 25 years of intellectual property basically into 5 separate modules, starting with a community assessment. And there was a group of women from Saudi Arabia who went to Dallas last month, including D.Sammiة, who led the delegation with Dr. Jahani. And they learned those modules, and they are coming back here today to do Train the Trainer. So they are upstairs training a group of 20 women on the first module, community assessment. And that will basically look at what is going on in their community, everything from community profiles of individuals to families to what medical conditions exist in terms of mammography. Are they doing self-breast exams? Are they doing clinical exams, etc.? So that's the first step along this journey. So once the trainers are trained, there's also an advocacy portion of that, and volunteers. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Now, D.Sammiة, you've started your own society, Break the Silence group, hasn't it?
Well, it's not a society, but we are having, we are of course part of this program, which is the biggest program, and there are different campaigns in the whole country, and we are trying the first step, which is to break the silence. And maybe you won't believe it, I feel that, I always say that in our country, they need just somebody to start the first step, because people now, they talk in a way that it's very amazing, because when the First Lady came, the first thing which we have done that for a coffee morning for her to meet a survivor, breast cancer survivor. I thought we'll not find any single woman who will accept to come and meet the First Lady or be on the media. And she met around 10 ladies. So to break the silence was the first step. This is the campaign which we're doing. Now we are in the second step, which is implementing the program for increasing awareness.
Mm-hmm. We'll continue to talk about this program with D.Sammiة Alamoudi, who is a member of the Saudi Cancer Society High Committee on Breast Cancer, and also with Irene Walsh, who's Senior Advisor at the State Department, after this very short break.
16 hours and 8 minutes.
You don't have a clue.
The rat rule.
Do you believe in spirits? And I feel something is wrong.
The latest news of American movies, watch it on Cinema Magazine.
16 hours and 8
minutes.
minutes.
You don't have a clue.
Cinema Magazine at the following time.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bridges. We'll continue to talk with Ms. Irene Welch, Senior Advisor at the U.S. State Department, and also Dr. Samia Alamoudi, Assistant Professor at King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah and breast cancer survivor. I was asking you just before the break, Dr. Samia, about the attention that you got from ladies here in Saudi Arabia. I know you've got the attention of people and different societies in the U.S., of course. Now, tell me about the media campaigns. I believe you've done a few episodes on television that will increase the awareness. You write a column at Al-Madina newspaper. Well, tell me the response you've had on these media campaigns.
Okay, first of all, it started when I've started to write about my story. In the beginning, when I thought I will start writing about myself, my family, my uncle, he was very reluctant. He said, let's think about it. We don't know what would be the reaction of the people when you write about yourself. You cannot imagine the amount of response, and I put this one in my book, the amount and the number of the articles which were written, the support from men more than women. It was great response. It was wonderful response. So this was the first thing. The second thing, the media, you know, the media is I always say, the strongest tool to reach for people. Sometimes people like in Saudi Arabia or other countries, they might not read, they might not write, but definitely they will watch TV. TV is there in the kitchen for every single woman. So it's the best tool to reach for people. And this is why I thought, well, it's time that we have, we use the media and the TV in particular to reach for people, because you have to reach the people, give them the message, talk about it, break the silence, encourage people to talk about it. Like the survivor Éirin was mentioning, one of the reasons why people in my society, in my country, they don't like to talk about cancer, because once they are diagnosed with breast cancer, they think that next day they are going to die. It means death. This is for them. Why is that? Because they have never seen a person who have breast cancer, or a woman with breast cancer who survived, because they don't know, not because she's not surviving. There, when I went for the Race for the Cure, I was invited by Éirin to Houston for the Race for the Cure. It was an amazing experience. I've seen women who are survivors for 25 years. For me as a patient, not as a doctor, you won't believe it. It was very encouraging. It gives me a trust that there are people who survive, who do survive. This is what we are trying to do here, to tell people, when you talk, you support other people, you encourage them. They know that people, they've got, even if they have breast cancer, they survive, treatment is there if it's detected earlier, and to give them the support to understand the consequences of this disease. I don't say it's a simple one. It's an agony, definitely, but if you think about the reward from God, we take it in this sense of feeling, you know, that we have, we always say there is ajr for these things. So this is a reward. So this is what number one. Second thing, when they see that people are surviving, they know that there is treatment. They know that there is a difference between early detection and late cases. This is the kind of information we are trying to.
Did you manage to get some patients to talk about it on air, you know, on camera?
On camera, it was a bit difficult because still they accepted to go on with the newspaper, the press, but not on TV, except for when I was presenting episode 15. I presented 15 episodes with Iqra TV channel. And one of the episodes was with Lama Sulaiman, who's a famous lady from Jeddah chamber, and she's a breast cancer survivor. She's one of the lady who accepted, or maybe the only one who have accepted to come on TV and talk about her personal experience.
Maybe
But
in future we'll see more.
I'm sure of that,
Of
yes.
course. Now, I want to ask you, Éirin, about the U.S. First Lady, Laura Bush, when she was here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She showed real interest in this campaign and in this partnership. And, well, it's known for U.S. First Ladies, Nancy Reagan before her, and others who are interested in breast cancer and the awareness. Well, tell me, when you met those ladies in Qasim and you thought that there could be partnership, how did you bring it up to the level of the highest level in the U.S. administration?
Well, it actually wasn't very difficult because I came back and met with our ambassador and his wife in Riyadh and shared with them the overwetters, the experience I had had up in Qasim. And I then went back to Washington and I put together a proposal, and I shared it with the Department of State and with my boss then, Liz Cheney, and had a lot of support to do something like this. And I went and met with Nancy Brinker to see if Komen would join us on this mission. And she said, I've never been to the Middle East, but I would be more than happy to have Komen help in any way that we could. And with that, we went to Mrs. Bush, and she immediately said she would be happy to help in any way, and it would be an honor for the United States to join in this partnership for Saudi Arabia, because it's something Mrs. Bush's own mother had breast cancer. Nancy Brinker has had it herself. Her sister has had it. It's very prevalent in the United States, and it's a real success story in how we've been able to turn this around in the last 25 years. So I think we were gung-ho on reaching out and sharing with our friends in Saudi Arabia.
Smashing. Now, tell me about the project and where you're going to take it in Saudi Arabia, and then I believe it will also be expanded to include other countries in the region.
Exactly. Currently, we are in Saudi Arabia, in the United Arab Emirates, and in Jordan. The program has been had launches over the last year and a half. And but right now we're in the implementation stage, which is the actual training of the trainers and having it become part of the process within each country. So it's moved from basically the United States over to the country level right now. And we're starting here today. Saudi Arabia is the first country we're launching this in terms of the training. And it will be really a co-production of knowledge as we view it, something where we will hear and learn from the Saudi Arabians as we share the story from the United States. And with this, we will be able to take the information not only throughout Saudi Arabia, but also throughout the entire Middle East region. We'll be learning from Jordan. We'll be learning from the experience of the United Arab Emirates. Clearly, it will be a different experience than we have had in the United States. So we're here today. We leave for Jeddah tonight, home of d.Samia, and we will be hosting another training tomorrow, and then up to Qasim, where it all began. We'll be going up there on Monday, and then over to Dammam.
Now, d.Samia, the interaction now between civil society organizations like the Komen Foundation and, of course, your little kind of society, this interaction between people, ordinary human beings from different countries of the world, but belonging to the one earth we live on, did you think this works to bridge the gap between different societies and different people?
Well, definitely. This is, I think that this is a great chance to show how people can share a lot of things. And breast cancer, I always say it's a human issue. And it shows you how human issues can bring people together. It's a bridge, definitely, because you will find it's the same thing if you have a lady in the United States, a lady in Japan, a lady in Saudi Arabia. We share the same problem. We are women, we are mothers, we have breast cancer, we have the same kind of issues that we could share. So definitely it's a way of communication, sharing, bridging, whatever you call it. It brings people together, definitely. It shows that there's a lot of things common between women everywhere in the world.
What's your views on this, Irene? You've noticed there is much difference between people who suffer from a disease like breast cancer, regardless of their culture?
Actually, I've seen no difference. When a person is told that they have cancer, whether it be man or woman, their reaction is the same. It's a human reaction. And breast cancer is actually not just a woman's disease. Men can get it too. 1% of patients are men. And it actually is a family disease. and something that is really shared by the whole family, and all the family, the spouse, the children, the relatives, the parents, all suffer as the patient suffers. But at the same time, it's a learning and a growing experience for each person and each family that's involved. And I think when we presented this and said we would like to come and work in Qasim first, and then in Riyadh and in the other governorates, I think the reception that we received here was unprecedented. And with King Abdullah welcoming Mrs. Bush and talking about it and talking about the importance of it, and King Fahd Medical City and all the support that we have received, it just goes to show that you talk about bridges, this has certainly been one of them between our peoples, and I think throughout the world we will see more and more and more of this.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, since you both are cancer survivors, that you have more of the dedication and the zest to try and do something about other people? Maybe other women are probably oblivious to the dangers of cancer, but because you've had this feeling, you feel that you owe it to your generation and your gender to enlighten them about cancer, about early detection?
Samia?
Well, definitely. Let me tell you from my experience as a doctor. I always say, if you give a lecture, people might listen to you. But because I'm a patient now, I'm like them. They know that when I talk to them, I know what's their feelings. If they talk about chemotherapy and their side effects, I had chemotherapy. I had it in my veins. I lost my hair. I was born. So we share the same feeling. Definitely, it makes a difference.
But it's important for you to tell them it grows back on again, because
exactly,
sometimes they feel
because I know,
they lose it for good.
Instead of giving it theoretically, you give it, and you have a trust from the people. They trust that you understand their feelings. It's not like somebody, they will say, well, he doesn't know because he doesn't have this. He doesn't know what's inside, what's our feelings.
Yes.
But because I am a patient now, it's different. I know what they are talking about. They know that I know their feelings. I understand their feelings. So it makes a difference. The commitment by itself, I think it goes stronger. Although sometimes you might feel advocates or volunteers who are strongly committed to the case, but still when you are a patient, it's different.
Yes, indeed. We're going to take another short break right now, and we'll be back to discuss ways in which research and cooperation in research between different countries, between the US and Saudi Arabia, for example, could come up with the magic cure we've all been waiting for. Join us after this very short break.
There has been a surge of U.S. assistance to various countries, with numerous organizations providing financial aid to countries in need, particularly in response to war, terrorist acts, and the effects of natural disasters. When President George Bush spoke to the General Assembly last September, he addressed the Global Leadership Campaign, addressing the United States' assistance in the African Education Initiative, as well as opening trade agreements with Peru, Colombia, Panama, and South Korea. He highlighted the U.S.-led peaceful changes in Burma by U.S. tightening economic sanctions on various leaders who impede the peace process. USAID, UNICEF, the World Health Organization, and various non-governmental organizations, entirely U.S.-funded or mutually supported by World Partnership Assistance, contribute great amounts of money and aid each year. For example, after a natural disaster, USAID has recently provided $50,000 to the Pan American Health Organization to combat yellow fever in Paraguay, and more than $2 million in assistance to Tajikistan. Among the 15 focus countries for the U.S. Department of State-led PEPFAR increased assistance for displaced Iraqis to almost a tune of $200 million in the first half of year 2008.
The American people have supported treatment for well over 1 million people, have supported care for millions, including orphans and vulnerable children, and have begun to help prevent new infections. So really, the success is lifting people up, creating hope, But that's happening because lives are being saved.
Bill and I first got involved in global health issues when we realized the very large inequities that exist around the world. It was quite amazing to us when we started to learn about global health, this enormous gap that existed between the rich world and the poor world. And vaccines that we take so for granted here in the United States just literally aren't available in the developing world.
President Bush's emergency plan for AIDS relief in Tanzania plans to provide approximately $303 million by fiscal year 2008. We spoke to the public to get a feel of the reasoning behind the philanthropic efforts, and here's what they had to say.
I guess need, or he has other motives too. But I think he probably generally does care, but like it helps his image too.
Like he's trying to make it look good because they like him over there, the election coming up, but I don't know how serious he is as far as that helping out with Africa.
I think it's a little bit too little, too late.
I know that the U.S. needs to kind of assert some kind of influence over other countries, and we have the resources to, you know, extend a helping hand and for some situations, such as the recent aid in South Africa. But I think the timing of the situation might be a little coincidental as the exit of George W. Bush from office.
Showing that kind of face is like a good way to show, like, even though he's failed in like so many other places, he's still a compassionate conservative. He cares about Africans and he cares about people in general. It's a good way to like look good going out, even though I don't know if it's actually working or if it's actually helpful, and it might even be too late in like the course of like what's going on right now.
Well, I think the assistance is definitely well-intentioned, but I mean, I think there have been times when the U.S. definitely should have been more involved. I mean, such as Darfur and whatnot, and only now we're saying, you know, we're remembering and we're saying, you know, never again, never again.
Usually that it's kind of a PR move, but my understanding is that that's been going on since really the beginning of the administration. With the AIDS help, at least.
Rwanda is another country on the State's Department map with a $123 million assistance program to help fight HIV/AIDS epidemic. The U.S. private enterprise and individuals have also been contributing in great ways.
I mean, I think there's always more that can be done, and there's a lot of problems in the world, and I feel like it's really cool when people with a lot of money are willing to use that to help other people, but I mean, I can't speculate on that.
UNICEF has always been the pillar for the underprivileged child's future. UNICEF has recently announced a U.S. $19 million funding for Liberia's primary education system. For the reasoning behind such remarkable contributions around the world, whether it be, quote, to save face, for example, with beginning such a war in Iraq that devastated its people and took the lives of over hundreds of thousands of people from Iraq and, of course, U.S. military, or whether it is a true call of duty for the United States. The key fact is that good for the world is, in fact, being done all over the world. The motives or intentions of the U.S. government in relation to international assistance are never truly clear nor constant. The only thing that can truly be evaluated are the results seen after the financial and humanitarian aid. For Bridges, I'm Afaf Kanja, New York City, the United States.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bridges. Well, I want to ask you, Ms. Irene, about Ms. Laura Bush, the U.S. First Lady, when she was here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. She said something very important that illustrates how the world could work together and partnership could work. She said the cure for breast cancer could come from a researcher in Washington or a young doctor in Riyadh. Wherever the cure is discovered, it will help women in the Middle East and the United States survive their bouts with breast cancer. Well, did you feel this is the kind of light that people like yourselves are going with, that collaboration and coordination between different research centers in Saudi Arabia, for example, and the United States, maybe one day would come up with a cure, especially with stem cells now and different discoveries?
I think absolutely Mrs. Bush is 100% accurate in her assessment of what this partnership is all about. As it's the U.S. Middle East Partnership for Breast Cancer Awareness, which we've been talking about thus far, and research. And the research is going to be with King Fahd Medical City, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and also Susan G. Komen for the Cure has got a large research arm for funding. And I think what we're beginning to see is as we move forward in having these exchanges, there's going to be one this month, as a matter of fact, hosted here in Riyadh by the King Fahd Medical City, which will bring over researchers from MD Anderson as well as Dana-Farber Harvard Medical Center to begin discussions on perhaps clinical trials and biorepositories and databases and things that are going on here within the kingdom and sharing on what's going on in the United States. And I think what we hope to do is begin not just discussions but some actual research projects that could start. Clearly the disease, like anywhere in the world, presents itself in different formats, and so there's a unique population here in Saudi Arabia, which is different from the West, from Latin America, from Asia, but there has been a dearth of knowledge about the Middle East and the way that cancer presents itself. So we believe that this will be a new beginning, and certainly not only as far as researchers are concerned, to have access to each other's labs to find out more, to hopefully find a cure, but also for the whole medical community to have exchanges, not just in the lab, but as far as technology, radiology, chemotherapy, and so that we can begin to find areas of commonality.
Mm-hmm. Dr.Samia, now could you tell us about the benefits you've come up with from training in the United States, for example, and also bringing this training to other trainers here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the program that you're implementing today? Well, tell us how much hope do you have for it, and what are the prospects for the future?
Well, actually, I think this is one, it's the best step ever happened in this field, because we have maybe we have resources, we have money, we have the capabilities, but we lack the experience. And this is a key issue in this problem. People in the United States, like Susan G. Komen, they have experience of 25 years. If you are going to start from the zero or from the scratch, whatever, it means that we might lose time, and we cannot afford to lose time, because it means we might lose lives. So it's a different story. The training there, we are getting the experience of those experts, and this is what we are benefiting from them, because we take the experience, the knowledge, what they have achieved, and this is what we are trying to give it to people here. So this is a great step, and it's I think this is the best way to start in whatever issue you are starting.
Mm-hmm. Now, Erin, now with video conferencing and the internet technology and IT technology, do you think this will also probably one day bring researchers together, that they can share their experiences? And actually, a few days ago here in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia at King Faisal Specialist Hospital and Research Center, that there was a surgery that was done here while it was watched by people abroad. Do you think this will also help in dealing with breast cancer?
Absolutely. In fact, yesterday I was meeting with Dr. Al-Amro and Dr. Ali Shankidi here at King Fahd Medical City, where you have state-of-the-art facilities for telemedicine. And they were talking about the ways that they are already beginning to have teleconferences and meetings with doctors in the United States to share different slides and the pathology reports and discuss areas of treatment. So it's clearly on the move, and I think with the advancement of technology, and certainly you have it here within Saudi Arabia and certainly here at King Fahd Medical City, I can see more and more collaboration. Right now, I think it's important that doctors do get on the planes and come over and meet each other face to face to kick these things off. But after that, I think once they've met in person, we can begin a very large collaboration.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dr. Alamoudi, well, tell us about the programs you're starting here today. Who are you training? Are you training ordinary people, volunteers that would come in for training, or people with breast cancer, for example, or doctors?
Okay, the program is intended, it's intended to be for women from different sectors in the society. We have doctors, we have nurses, we have housewives, we have people from Islamic associations, people from university students, so different kind of people, because the message that we are, these are volunteers, by the way, first of all, 20 ladies in each city. And one of the idea behind that is that it's a message to send to these 20, and this is a way of spreading the information. And we would like to spread it among different levels or sectors of the society. So they are not medical. They are medical, non-medical, from every aspect of the society.
Mm-hmm. Well, Irene, well, tell us about the program. You are here just yourself, or did you bring with you some experts to help in training these volunteers?
No, we have a team here that from the Institute for International Education, from ICF Consulting, and but the most important aspect, I would say, of this training is that it's transferred. So the training itself was transferred in Dallas, Texas at Komen last week to the doctors, or to the master trainers here in Saudi Arabia. So it's the Saudi Arabian trainers that are giving the training upstairs to your own doctors. So yes, there are some people here that I would say would be guides on the side for the first training, but it is the Saudi trainers themselves that are doing the teaching. And D.Sammiة, I would add that it's just a very great group of ladies that are upstairs, including women from throughout the city, and we have the honor to have Princess Haifa Al Faisal attending as well as a student because of her new NGO with Dr. Suad bin Amr focusing on women's breast cancer. So it's quite a group of people.
Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Sami Alamoudi mentioned earlier that the expertise that the United States has in the field, that we can build on these experiences that you've had. But I want to go back on how did you gain this experience, and how come people are not afraid to talk about breast cancer, for example, and how much young students, for example, would know what to look for? Was it the media itself, or was it the school curriculum, or how did the United States go about this?
It started with grassroots organizations, and basically they are the ones that brought it to the attention of the U.S. government and to the state governments. Women and groups coming together to say this is an issue. We are getting diagnosed, and together they were asking for better medical treatment and for awareness and more money to go into research. So it really started at the grassroots level in the United States, and today Komen has 114 affiliates across the United States, which are really like mini franchises of women and men coming together to advocate for breast cancer, more awareness and more research. And then companies, private sector has become involved. And so it's not just a once a year thing during the month of October, but it's actually year round. And people are talking about it, members of Congress, the President of the United States. It's become a very big issue in the United States over the last 25 years, but it began by the work of a couple of people, a couple of women, and coming together. And I think that's what you're seeing here. And fortunately, here in Saudi Arabia, you've started not only with some grassroots women and doctors and medical professionals, but also with His Majesty the King. So you're very lucky that it's you've got a fast start.
Now, with the support of the custodian of the two holy mosques and many princes and princesses in the royal family, of course, well, did you advertise for this program, and how are you planning a strategy to increase the awareness of people about breast cancer, Dr. Alamoudi?
Okay, we have, too many things that we are planning to do. First of all, of course, the core of this issue is the program which we are doing now, because this program is not only in Riyadh, it's a 4-city tour. So we are having it in tomorrow in Jeddah at King Abdulaziz University. Then we have it, we're going to have it in Qasim and Dammam. There is a media workshop beside that one, and there is a conference at the end of each day. So media are involved, and this is a way of advertising about the program or about the volunteers. And the press conference will cover the questions, answers, issues that are related, so it's a way of sending the message as well. The media workshop is something as well, another workshop beside the main training course, which is an excellent idea, which was, of course, originally by Erin. This media workshop is intended to be a message to the journalists and to the people in the media by one of the American famous journalists. They are going to have this workshop to know how to use media tools to increase the awareness and to use it as a tool for public awareness and education. So all these together, they are serving the issue, and they are the way to reach for the community.
Well, tell us about the 5-year survival rate, because this is a benchmark whereby many people go by. Well, what's this?
Well, this is a statistical way. Of course, usually we say this is a medical statistics, but there are something else, like we call it al-ajal. I don't know what is the translation in English, but we know that people can die from any other reason, from car accident, not necessarily from cancer. But scientifically, if you have an early detection, like if the mass is small and it's localized, the survival, the expected that this percentage of people will live for 5 years is very high, very high. But if the woman is diagnosed to have cancer, like in the stage 4, which is, it means that the disease is in the breast and in the bone or liver or somewhere else.
A late stage.
It means a late stage, advanced stage. This means from the medical point of view that she might not live long enough. So it makes a hell of difference.
This is why early prognosis is very
Definitely.
important.
As Erin mentioned, if we diagnose it or pick it up at the early stage, there is 98% survival rate, which makes a hell of difference. Like the fourth, in stage 4, maybe 20 or less.
Mm-hmm. Well, Irene, you've been to the kingdom a few times. Well, tell us your impression. You've met so many ladies, and I'm sure you sit and talk together about different topics, and I also believe that you talk to non-English speaking Saudi ladies and you seem to communicate with them. Well, tell me about the impressions you have about Saudi women in general.
They're just like American women. I think the women that I've talked to in the different areas, from a number of cities. I've been to 4 different cities here in Saudi Arabia. I've probably been 12 times over the last 2 years. And from academics to mothers to school teachers, I think everyone is looking for the same thing. And with the grace of God, under this particular partnership, I think that we are coming together and becoming much closer as peoples, as a nation. And I hope that this partnership will be able to do something not only for our own countries and our relationship, but for the whole region. And as you mentioned earlier, maybe perhaps make a contribution to the world. I really have loved Saudi Arabia in all my times here, and I think that in getting to know the women, it's been a very unique and eye-opening experience for me, because the media portrays different visions of what Saudi women and Saudi men are in the West. And I think that I know that I've received comments from Saudi Arabians of what they thought that we were, what people, the Americans were, and American women. And I think that spending time together has really dispelled both of those myths about the negative aspects. And I think this partnership is showing that we've had a long relationship with Saudi Arabia, and that is going to continue.
One of the main aims of this program is to address misconceptions and stereotyping, especially in this region, about Americans, for example. But don't you think that media in America should try and do the same by interviewing people like yourselves who've had first-hand experience in dealing with Saudis, instead of bringing in a guest that's never been to Saudi Arabia, for example, talking about Saudi Arabia, Arabs and Muslims.
I absolutely think that. I think that it needs to go both ways, and I think we need more exchanges, and I think that both of our governments are supportive of that. I think we need to have more experiences and more partnerships on the human level, not just at the foreign policy level, and I'm speaking from a person in the Department of State, but health diplomacy in areas where we have tremendous common interests and have over the years and can work together. I think that's the only way forward, people to people, and I think that we will be successful in doing that. I think this is a great start.
I'd like to thank you both very much for coming into the program.
You.
And if you have one final word or a question probably that I didn't ask you, I'll start with you.
No, I just want to say thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to share our experience together, and also for the generosity and hospitality of Saudi Arabia. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Samia, your hopes for the future for patients with breast cancer here in the kingdom?
Well, I have great hopes now, because it seems, I always say, whatever you want to do in life, start with baby step. This is not a baby step. I hope it's a big step, especially when it was like a wake-up call for everybody, with the great support from the highest level of both governments, and with all these efforts of every single person in this country, with the support of the media, which is a strong tool. I think, inshallah, our hopes are great for this.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Well, of course, this cooperation between the United States and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in the medical field in increasing the awareness about breast cancer, inshallah, will pay dividends, and more people will get to learn about this disease, and inshallah will be able to get early diagnosis or else to feel very comfortable that you don't have the disease. It's very important indeed, and we'd like to thank the contribution of everyone who's put in effort into this program. I'd like to thank very much Ms. Irene Welch. She's a senior advisor at the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs at the U.S. State Department. Thank you very much for being with us in the program. And of course, Dr. Samia Alamoudi, member of the Saudi Cancer Society High Committee on Breast Cancer, and also assistant professor at King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah. She's a consultant obstetrician and gynecologist. I'd like to thank you both very much for being in our program, and I'd like to thank our viewers for joining us in this edition of Bridges.